Once again, it's a privilege to be welcomed into your homes. Today, we are reading from 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 1 to 10, then continue from 19 to 20. During the time, young Samuel was minister to the Lord under Eli. A revelation of the Lord was uncommon and vision infrequent. One day, Eli was asleep in his usual place. His eyes had lately grown so weak that he could not see. The lamp of God was not yet extinguished, and Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. The Lord called to Samuel, who answered, "Here I am." Samuel ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." "I did not call you," Eli said, "Go back to sleep." So he went back to sleep. Again, the Lord called Samuel, who rose and went to Eli. "Here I am," he said, "you called me." But Eli answered, "I did not call you, my son, go back to sleep." At that time, Samuel was not familiar with the Lord, because the Lord had not revealed anything to him as yet. The Lord called again for the third time. Getting up and going to Eli, he said, "Here I am, you called me." Then Eli understood that the Lord was calling the youth. So Eli said to Samuel, "Go to sleep, and if you are called, reply, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" When Samuel went to sleep in his place, the Lord came and revealed his presence, calling out as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel answered, "Speak, for your servant is listening." Samuel grew up, and the Lord was with him, not permitting any word of his to be without effect. Thus, all Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, came to know that Samuel was an accredited prophet of the Lord. Samuel lived in a time when the word of the Lord was rare. Silence, confusion, and spiritual dryness surrounded the people. Yet God chose to speak, not through power or spectacle, but through a child who was attentive and open. This reminds us that God's voice is not absent. It is often our hearts that are distracted or unprepared to listen. Samuel hears God calling, but does not immediately recognize the voice. He mistakes it for Eli's. Like Samuel, we often confuse God's call with familiar noises, our routines, fears, or expectations. Learning to recognize God's voice requires guidance, patience, and humility. Eli's role shows the importance of spiritual directors who help us discern when God is speaking. Samuel's response is simple yet profound. "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." He does not demand explanations or assurances. He offers availability. True listening to God involves surrender, being ready to hear even what may challenge us or unsettle us. As Samuel grows, the Lord was with him, and his words prove faithful. Listening leads to trust, and trust leads to mission. God's call is not only for the prophets of old, but for each of us today. In a noisy world where God's voice can seem distant, this passage invites us to cultivate silence, attentiveness, and obedience. Dear friends, may we learn to quiet our hearts and echo Samuel's prayer, allowing God to speak and shape our lives according to his will. Shalom.